Happy Monday, YouTube. It's Jeremy Brand here from MMASucka, and we got another video for you here for your viewing pleasure. Today, I want to talk about the website, MMASucka.com, and from humble beginnings to where we're at today. I just wanted to go through the process because I know there's a lot of people out there that watch these, and they want to know possibly how the site started, how we got to where we're at today. Whether you're just following on YouTube, make sure you head on over to MMASucka.com and check it out because we've grown immensely. We've got about 26, 27 writers now, if not more. And again, we started from humble beginnings, and I've had some serious talent come through the doors and write for the website, MMASucka.com. So before I get into the story, you know the deal. Make sure you click that like button, make sure you click that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to know when I have new videos come out. It is Monday, so we did have a new MMASucka podcast with Fraser Crone. For lack of better terms, he's not digging the MMA cards that are out there, the UFC cards, each and every weekend, and they need to do something about the fight nights to pique his interest and get those MMASucka podcasts out there. So today there is a show, and I hope you enjoy it, so make sure you head on over there and check out the MMASucka podcast with Fraser Crone every Monday. And again, like I said, I'll have videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So make sure you click the notification bell to know when those videos come out. 2009 was the birth date of MMASucka.com. November 29th, 2009 to be precise. I created a website for my wife, and that website is no longer. She was doing some baking. I was on my iMac, and there's an application on the operating system called iWeb. I don't know if it even exists anymore, but you used to be able to create websites with this application, and I made MMASucka.com on a whim after creating the website that I made for her because it was so simplistic. Needless to say, her website no longer exists. MMASucka.com is 15 years old almost. So we move forward, and I still remember the very first article I wrote for the website. It was about Dana White's favorite razor, which is hilarious because why? What was the whole point? What was the point of writing about his favorite razor? He tweeted it out or he posted it somewhere about what he used to shave his head. And as you can see, I shaved my head as well. So I decided to throw up that post. And I posted a bunch of other stupid stuff. I would do results. I would do news. I would do everything myself until I found a few guys that were writing for other websites, which now are no more. I've seen so many websites come and go over the past 15 years. It's insane. And I've seen so many writers come and go over the last 15 years. That's also insane. But like I said, we'll get to the fantastic writers that we had come through the door in a little bit. But the name, MMASucka.com, how it came about, I was always a Mr. T fan from A-Team, from Rocky, from all these things. And, you know, he always said sucka. And he always said, I'm going to get you, sucka. All this stuff. And I thought, you know, there was a MMAjunkie.com. There was an MMAfighting.com. So why not MMASucka.com? Did it get some flack? Definitely. People said it was a stupid name. Still to this day, I'm sure people think it's a stupid name and they don't want it, you know, tied to their brand. But we've had some pretty big deals over the years with companies that have not complained about the name MMASucka.com. We then had a company come to me, and I forget the gentleman's name, but it was a company called Fight Caps, and they wanted to sponsor the website in some way. I don't even know how he came into contact with me, but that's the thing. When you own a website and you create these things and you have an email out there or Twitter or whatever, you get contacted by a ton of people, whether you want to buy gear, whether you want to make boxing gloves, whether you want sponsored posts, whether you want all this other kind of jazz, people contact you. And this guy contacted me to sponsor, and I thought, oh, cool. Okay, let's try and get this going. Now, there was no monetization for it, but he wanted to recreate the website on a platform that was called WordPress. And I had no clue what it was at the time, but now the majority of websites out there are created on this platform, and MMASucka.com still continue to this day on WordPress. So I thank him, and we're still there to this day, and we've had writers come and go, and WordPress is still the way we create our articles over on MMASucka.com. Moving forward, we created a podcast. The MMA Sucka Radio actually is what it was called, and it was live at the time. myself, Ryan Phillip Lamb, and then Trevor Dewitt came aboard, and we had a live show where fighters would call in, and it was hit or miss because you could never gauge the time, and we did it live, and we were out of a gym called Raw Academy on Kingsway in Vancouver. And the show was so much fun, but needless to say, it didn't last long because live was very tough at the time, and the only other really live shows I think were like the Sherdog Radio Network, and those guys had fighters call in, but you know, TJ DeSantis was very, very good at what he did. Us, we were playing it by ear. But Trevor Dewitt stayed aboard, and he helped me out a ton at MMASucka.com in the early years. He was a fantastic writer. Still to this day, he writes. He went on to write for a number of different outlets, not MMA related. MMA Sucka was actually the only one that he did MMA related, other than print media, where we partnered up with a local newspaper called 24 Hour News, and it was handed out at SkyTrain stations, which is a transit here in Vancouver. And we had an article in that newspaper which helped us get media credentials for the UFC because it was through Sun Media, which was huge. So MMA Sucka was on scene at a lot of the early UFC events in our creation, which was very cool, getting to see and meet the fighters. We had a good relationship with the UFC, and then things over the years sort of foiled because of the purchase. It was obviously Zuffa back then, and now we are not Zuffa anymore, and things got a little tighter. So tough to get credentials for the UFC, but we are credentialed to every other major organization out there, which is insane. Trevor and I also ran UFC Fight Night events at a local pub called Shanks, where we would do fight pick'em contests, we would do giveaways. It was on a 100-foot screen that we had these pay-per-view parties that we threw. That was super fun. We had some other fantastic writers come and go through the days. Let me go over some of the names. Carlin Bardsley, Justin Perot, Nick Baldwin, who you know from The Score. The kid started with us when he was 16 years old. He had a website himself called MMAjunior.ca. James Lynch wrote for us, but he also does stuff on our YouTube channel. We had Ed Gallo, who was one of our editors, and that guy, you know, he did some amazing stuff for the website and moved on to do his own website. Obviously, we had JP Lasaletta, who is, you know, he's been my videographer and filming buddy for the whole tenure of MMASucka.com. Nelson Yo, my photographer, who does Battlefield Fight League events. Blaine Henry, who writes for My MMA News, started out with MMA Sucka back in the day. My good friend Darcy McBride, he was with MMA Sucka in the early days. He had a podcast for us called Radio TKO, and now, you know, he's on UFC Fight Pass, commentating and doing interviews for Battlefield Fight League. We had Dan Rose, who was one of our editors just a few years ago, and this guy has been in the MMA scene since the very, very early days of the UFC. Some of the big names that have made their way through MMASucka.com, as I said, James Lynch. He has written for us. He does stuff for our YouTube channel. Nick Baldwin started at 16, like I said, and now he writes for The Score. He's traveling. He was in Belfast for Bellator. This kid went to school for journalism, and he's doing big things. The big guy that we had write for us for a little bit was Mike Bond. This guy, you obviously know him from MMAJunkie.com. We had Adam Martin come through the doors at MMASucka.com. And there were a ton of others. I'm sorry if I forget your names, but we've done some cool stuff for writers and got their names out there and helped them sort of climb the ladder of the MMA media sphere. And after that talent left, actually some of them might have been around at the time, but in 2016, 2017, we partnered up with Last Word on Sports. And this sort of made the website a little bit more professional and legitimate. Prior to partnering up with Last Word on Sports, it was tough to pay writers. It was tough to figure things out on that side of things. And it was just me, you know, sort of running on fumes. I had a lot of writing talent, but I didn't necessarily put things in an order where they should be. Since partnering up with Last Word on Sports, Michael Kovacs, Ben Kerr or Beaker, whatever you want to call him. Since partnering up with them, the website became very, very, very professional. We hire on staff via applications, which we didn't do previously. Writers are paid by monthly, and it's very, very, as I said, it's very on top of things. And Last Word on Sports is huge, so it's very cool to be under that umbrella. Now, we've got a slew of talent, as I said earlier, currently writing for the website. I can't go over names because there are far too many, but these guys are very talented. 25, 26, 27, maybe more writers for the website, MMASucka.com. And if you want to get started in the MMA media industry, I know James Lynch has pushed our name out there a ton as a place to get started. We have a remuneration program that we run, so you have to qualify for it with the amount of writing that you do. We don't pay per piece, but you get the info if you want to do the job. Hit us up on Twitter at MMASucka or LWOS.inc, and there's an application form on that website. And you can say that you want to write for MMA But again, if you want to get started in this industry, it's a very tough one to get a full-time gig, and it's a very tough one to even get paid. But if you want to start sort of on a website where it's not the ground floor and you've got a name for yourself with a website that has done things in this sport, then hit us up because we'd love to see what you have to offer, and we can put your work out there. I talked for way too long about how this thing started and where we're at now. But again, we've had some big things come through the pipeline. Hell, we even had a radio show on a local radio station, CKNW, called Fat Lip Radio. Ed Garcia, Damon Holochuk, myself, and Trevor Duick hosted that show. And it was a late night radio show until one of the producers, a new producer that came through the radio station, no longer wanted MMA on their airwaves. But that was a super cool experience to be on local radio. And like I said, this industry can take you through some serious ups and downs, and we've done it all. We've gone to the highest of highs, and I've definitely hit the lowest of lows when it comes to this MMA media game, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And again, like I said, make sure you click that like button, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and if you want to write for MMA Sucka, hit us up. That does it for me. I will see you Wednesday.